Hi everyone, this is 1 Year On. I'm Alison, and following on from episode 18, today's episode is about the neurologist's appointments that I had at the hospital. I had seen a neurologist at the hospital while I was first in. He said he didn't think there was anything much wrong with me and said he would send me home and maybe get an MRI done as an outpatient. However, later that day, the MRI was done and the stroke location was found. I didn't see that neurologist again, but he came with a posse of junior doctors and maybe some students. They weren't introduced to me. As an outpatient, I saw 2 different neurologists 3 months apart. The neurology department didn't seem very well organised, and they didn't answer their phone when you called them. And then 2 people phoned to tell me the time and date of the appointment at 2 separate times. So I began to think I was going mad, and it definitely was like my brain was being played tricks on. The first appointment in the outpatients department was with a doctor. I still haven't been able to work out who he was because I checked for his registration on APRA and there weren't any with his name, so I'm really not sure who he was. Anyway, I had to go to these outpatients appointments in a part of the hospital that I wasn't familiar with. That was a bit tricky, and I was really late as I'd gone to the outpatients clinic area that I was familiar with and told it was at the other end of the hospital where the appointment would be. That didn't start the appointment off well at all. There was a lot of work being done in the hospital at the time, so doors were closed off and access was limited, which made it frustrating to get around. My husband came with me to both appointments and he met me at both appointments. The first one was really weird, and that doctor wasn't able to tell me much. He asked me to do things like count backwards from 100, deducting 7 each time. My brain is not built for mental maths, even before the stroke. So that was a futile exercise, and I didn't do well with that at all. And I got irritated with his questions. He took my blood pressure, looked at my eyes, asked me a few things. He told me about the location of the stroke and the parts of the body controlled by that part of the brain, which didn't really add up to what actually had happened. He said that there were some other factors that would have to be looked into, including autoimmune disorders, clotting disorders and vasculitis. They were the wild number of blood tests that I had done, which I mentioned in another episode called The Workup. I also came to learn that I wouldn't be able to have any operations for 6 months. And given I'd been booked for a gynecological operation in July, I had to cancel that. That was a massive blow because I really needed that operation and I'm still waiting for it to be done. The appointment was quite combative and I didn't feel very comfortable with him at all. He didn't seem particularly interested in what he was doing, and I was probably feeding off his attitude, so I came away from the appointment not feeling particularly happy. I was ranting actually, but that's another story. You know how there are some doctors who you just don't gel with? Well, he was one of them. The next appointment was with a very different doctor. He was more senior and a lot better manner for me. He was very helpful and showed me the scan and spoke about the location of the stroke, the fact that that bit was close to the thalamus. We spoke about the healing that takes place and how long a process it can be. Our conversation was not really about doctoring and the stroke. It was more about looking behind the experience and beyond it. More of a metaphysical discussion, interestingly enough. He recommended some books, The Myth of Normal, Breath, Letting Go, and What the Heck Should I Eat? And also spoke about the best thing for the healing brain, in his opinion, was minimally processed foods and the purest of water. He called the stroke cryptic, as in there was no known origin, and he said I would have to get my head around that. That the source would never be known. He spoke about all the things I could focus on, and there was a sizable list. And that when it's a cryptic stroke, you have to make them all your priority rather than just one thing that becomes your sole priority. I didn't really like that. And medicine doesn't have all the answers. It really isn't a science. We explored the vagus nerve, which my singing already stimulates. He was happy to hear about the yoga I did and the singing practice. He said, what were my stress levels like? I said, how much time do you have? Modern life doesn't allow for a stress-free life. He said my focus should be on keeping calm. We spoke about meditation, which I also do. Basically, it was a situation that nothing should have happened, and I was told that the blood tests showed nothing of interest, nothing at all to explain the stroke cause, no autoimmune disorders, no blood clotting disorders, no vasculitis. He said I had to go away and eat well, keep as low stress as possible, and I didn't need to come back to see him again. I really liked him and could have spoken to him for hours. I would actually like to interview him, and maybe I will for this podcast. I felt really positive coming away from that appointment, quite elated actually, and it wasn't the last time I would hear of him, as the ABC News piece, which I explored in the Stroke Foundation episode, would have an interview with Dr. Bart as well as an interview with me. That was quite funny. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe and leave a comment. I will be back next time to give you an insight into the frustrations that have plagued me as I failed to cope adequately with my healing and damaged brain.